Led by Texas and Montana, 21 states are suing Biden for revoking the Keystone XL pipeline permit. And this one's a little bit of a doozy, okay? I'm Nick Revocation of Revocation Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a legal and political commentator here on YouTube. So if you like that stuff, hit the subscription button and that notification bell so you don't miss any videos, right? So what is the Keystone XL pipeline? Why did Biden revoke it? All of that stuff. Let's talk about that. This pipeline is designed to transport oil, a crude oil, from Alberta, Canada, down to the coast of Texas for refining. The oil that's coming out of Canada is this tar sand oil. There's a whole bunch of this particular type of sand with this sludgy sort of tar that has lots of oil in it, and it needs to be transported somewhere to be refined into usable products like gasoline and propane and other sort of propane accessories, right? Various petroleum byproducts that can be used in all sorts of applications. But it has to be taken out of this crude sort of sludgy format. And so that is done down in Texas. And this pipeline, in a lot of ways, it already exists in some capacity. There's already a pipeline running down to Texas for this. This would be an expansion of the Keystone pipeline and a little bit of a shortcut, if you will, in this pipeline network. And this was a big controversy and has been for a long time. So the Keystone XL pipeline secured a permit through the Army Corps of Engineers, and then Obama put the kibosh on it. He's like, nope, we don't want this thing. It's got too much environmental impact or whatever. Well, thank goodness Obama was not president forever, and Donald Trump came in and he granted the permit. Now, one of the first things Joe Biden did as president was to sign an executive order revoking this permit. And that is what's at issue here. But briefly, before we pop into this article, and I'll have this article and the complaint down in the description below. If you guys want to read them, you certainly can. And the links will be down there. But here is the issue, okay? This is the past year of oil prices for crude oil. And if you notice right now, we're at $61.49 per barrel of crude oil. If you notice right here, this depression, this dip, this minimum, that is election day. And the next day, oil prices started trending upwards and have been trending upwards ever since. You know, they went up early in 2020 and then sort of plateaued off, being relatively stable. And now they have gone up quite a bit since Joe Biden took office. And with rising oil prices, one of the things we need to do is have as many sources of oil that are cost effective and available. And this pipeline makes more oil available. It makes the transportation cheaper. It effectively brings oil prices down. And I don't know about you guys, but I really like paying less money when I fill up my car. Maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe everybody else likes paying more. I don't know. Let's take a look at the article. This is the same article before I just skipped the stupid picture. So, a coalition of attorneys general from 21 states sued President Biden and members of his administration for rescinding the permit of the Keystone XL pipeline, seeking to undo the president's attempt to effectively nix the 1,200-mile-long pipeline. Led by attorneys general of Texas and Montana, the states argued in their complaint that the president exceeded his authority when he issued his executive order, January 20, revoking permits for the oil pipeline. This order targeting Keystone was one of several executive actions Mr. Biden has taken since assuming the presidency that focus on the environment and addressing climate change. All right. So what's the issue, right? Obama denied the order. Trump grants the order. Can't Biden just revoke it? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. See, permits are permits. They're a permissive act that is done. And so once a permit is granted, that person or that entity or whoever now has a property right in that permit. They have some sort of vested interest in what the permit is granting them. It'd be like if I gave you, permission and wrote it down and gave you an actual permit and registered it with with the city or whatever. And I said, you have the right to put down a pathway from across my property between like two of yours or something like that. If I gave you that permit and then I tried to just revoke it, well, no, we've got an agreement now, and there needs to be a specific reason for the revocation of that agreement. All right. Now, permits are the same thing. They're in a way, they're like a contract. But once they're enacted, they grant a right. That's the permit part. It's a permission, and it is to give up a right from one entity to another. All right. So when President Trump granted the permit to the Keystone XL pipeline, he said, we are the United States giving up our authority over this particular strip of land, and you are now allowed to build a pipeline upon it. And the pipeline is largely completed. So it's basically there, but now they're revoking the permit. So the revocation of that is to deprive a company, a person, a something of a right that's been granted. And that's the issue. They're saying that the president does not have the authority to just revoke a right based on environment. Okay, that's the basis of this complaint. So, revocation of the Keystone XL pipeline permit is a regulation of interstate and international commerce, which can only be accomplished, as any other statute can, through the process of bicameralism and presentment. The states argued in their complaint, President lacks the power to enact his ambitious plan to reshape the economy in defiance of Congress's unwilling to do so. Now, what they're arguing here is the constitutional provision that Congress is the only person who can, or the only entity who can regulate interstate commerce. So it must be done by a bill, and that bill must be then approved by the president. The president didn't take congressional action on this. In fact, the president's executive order runs contrary to congressional action. This pipeline has congressional approval. It had congressional approval when Trump validated it. It still has that same congressional approval. Congress would have to make an action to undo this, unless the Biden administration can support its mandate under some other congressional action, which is going to be tough to reconcile with the fact that Congress has authorized this. But let's say through the Environmental Protection Agency or some other mandate, they were able to justify through a congressional delegation of authority that they could revoke the permit. And that's likely going to be part of the argument coming back from the Biden administration is, no, we have authority. We've been granted authority by Congress to regulate clean air and clean water through the Environmental Protection Agency. And therefore, we will revoke this permit or put it into a review period and then stall it out forever. You know, that's the approach they're going to take. These states say no. And the states have an interest in this because especially Texas has an interest in processing oil. It's good for their economy. But all of the states who have a Keystone XL pipeline running through it, they all have employment interests in this thing, and they have various agreements that are being paid for by the company to have this pipeline on their land. There are interests on all sides in this. The attorneys general argued Congress sets rules for the actions the president can take regarding Keystone. Mr. Biden and senior members of his administration flouted those rules. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton accused Mr. Biden of acting with complete disregard for the constitutional limits on his power. So the pipeline was designed to move approximately 830,000 barrels of oil from Canada and Montana to the Gulf Coast of Texas. The pipeline is part of a larger system of lines and would run through several states. The Obama administration denied permits for the pipeline. Former President Trump approved construction of the line in 2019, and work began last year. In his order effectively ending the pipeline, Biden said it would not serve a national interest. I want to remind you that national interest is this. That's your wallet. That's your wallet right there. Biden doesn't think that your ability to pay for gas is in the national interest. He says the U.S. should prioritize the development of a clean energy economy, which would in turn create good jobs, implying that jobs from fossil fuels are not good jobs. I mean, I think a lot of people who want those jobs would beg to differ, but I don't know. Who am I? I'm just a guy. But this is silly. We can still prioritize the development of a clean energy economy while taking care of today's economy. That's just basic diversification. It makes sense. I thought we were in favor of diversity. But his order has left hundreds of workers unemployed. TC Energy estimated nearly 1,000 employees were laid off as a result of the action. So with the stroke of a pen, Biden removed 1,000 jobs. 1,000 jobs, just in, because that's good for the economy. Apparently, don't worry, they can do something else. When he raises that minimum wage, when that promise gets filled, right, then they can go work at McDonald's or whatever. But anyway, I don't know. I wanted to share this story with you. There are going to be a lot of these stories. Conservative states are going to be fighting back pretty heavily against the executive actions of the Biden administration. And we're going to probably see a lot of these lawsuits going through, at least until Kamala Harris is put in place as president. But that's a story for another day. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you like Keystone XL? Do you hate it? Maybe you hate the oil industry. I don't know. I know what I like. I like paying less for gas. But what do you think? We'll talk soon. Until then, peace. Peace.